it's me, Tamara, the girl behind Starcross Knits. So welcome back, or it's nice to meet you. This is gonna be, I think, my 5th podcast episode, which is where I just share what are the projects that I'm working on, kind of just chit-chatty updates about knitting related things. I guess we can start with the finished objects. So I'm wearing one of them, although I'm not 100% happy with it. So let's talk about it. It's this little tube top that I'm wearing with some high-waisted linen pants right now. And this is made in Drops Cotton Merino yarn in navy, which is a DK weight superwash merino yarn 50-50 with cotton. And the thing I'm not happy about is it's just a little bit more cropped than I wanted it to be. It's like about, I don't know, whatever this gap is, like 2 inches, an inch and a half too short. So I need to go back in and redo that, but I'm a little bit annoyed too because I actually already knitted this top before and this one didn't turn out well. So this one came out too big, which is because I am using superwash merino, and sometimes that, not sometimes, like basically always, that will grow when you block it. And this one just ended up growing more than I expected it to based off of my swatch, which I did wash. I did block my swatch. So if you like look up stuff about this, it's basically just like, it can be annoying like that. That's like just a fact of life. And people will be like, oh, try to dry your swatches like hanging so that there's some weight pulling it down that will more mimic the weight of a full garment. And then also, I definitely was careful to squeeze out a lot of water before I picked up my wet thing. Like, you never want to pick up a wet superwash thing, or really any blocked knit like this, where it's like hanging a lot of its wet weight, because that will like really pull it and stretch it. So you want to like squish it and kind of take it out like this. And I was very good about that. And I did end up throwing it in the dryer a little bit. And I got kind of frustrated because if I dried it only in the dryer, I couldn't get this top hem to stay like really nice and neat looking. So I actually made a couple changes with this one's upper hem and lower hem. These are using what's called welts. So they're actually like a little bit, you can kind of see here in profile, they're a little bit 3-dimensional. They stick out. It's kind of like, almost like looks a little bit like an I-cord, but it's basically like a teeny tiny folded hem. And I just changed the way that I did it between this top and this one, so that this one, it just lays flatter and nicer by default, even if you don't, like I actually did throw this one in the dryer a tiny bit too. And yeah, it didn't have the same issue with like curling over itself like this one did. So I want to add just a tiny bit more length, and I was debating, should I just do a 3rd stripe, because it's just annoying to have to undo these welts, because each welt is like actually that long unknitted, so it's like more than it looks to undo, which like still isn't really that much. It's just, I think I just feel annoyed of it because I already went through this process. But the inspiration behind this top was that I wanted to make something that sort of looked a little bit like vintage preppy tennis inspired. And I feel like, I don't know if, like, tell me if anyone else feels this way too, but sometimes when the weather changes from the winter back into summer, I feel like not my personality changes, but like my personal style changes a little bit. I forget if I talked about this in my last podcast episode. I don't know. But anyway, so I just feel myself gravitating again towards like kind of preppy retro stuff. Whereas over the winter, I was doing a lot of like romantic inspired pieces. So I've also been playing a lot of tennis, which is actually part of why I don't feel like I have that many things to show today, is because I've been playing a lot of tennis and got a little bit of a shoulder injury from pole dancing. And I don't know, I've just been feeling a little bit wary about doing a lot of knitting and a lot of playing tennis when I already feel like my joint is like, you know, a little bit tender. So anyway, but that is kind of drawing some of this tennis inspired outfit. Actually, one of my friends sent me an ad from Reformation and was like, this dress made me think of you. And it was a tennis dress that was literally the inspiration for this top. So she knows me well. And I ended up deciding, I was like, maybe this is cute just as a tank, maybe it's cute just as a tube top, but I made a little detachable strap, and it has a little buttonhole on the end, so I'm gonna sew a button inside here so that you can add and remove it when you want to. It's not laying completely flat right now, but that's the vibe. I want it to be pretty wide, and I need to knit a second one. So I like the idea that you can wear this as a tube top, or you can wear it as a tank top. I was like, what is the other version? A tube and a tank top. So that's the idea behind that. And I guess in theory, if I made two of these long enough, you could also like tie it in a knot behind your neck. It's a little halter moment. I don't know. And then I was like, oh, but would this be cute? Not only as a tube/tank top, but as a tube/tank dress. And then I took a poll on my Instagram and I was like, should I turn this into a dress, or should I just leave it as a tube top, or should I make it into a matching set? And I decided to follow the wisdom of the crowds. So this is my very first bottom that I've ever made in progress. This is one of my works in progress this week. And sorry, it has all these like goofy stitch markers hanging off of it because it's starting with a folded hem, but I hadn't bought an elastic to put inside the folded hem yet. I wanted kind of like a thicker elastic that I could use to just keep the waistband really comfy and stretchy. I was able to find this 1 inch thick navy elastic waistband. So I think that'll be perfect because you won't really be able to see it through. And so I just need to cut that to the right size, slip it in there, and then seam this folded hem shut. So that'll be fun. I think that'll be pretty easy, but for now I'm just kind of pinning it as I try it on. And this is sort of like an A-line silhouette, I guess. Like I'm just gradually increasing. Oh my God, I have a drop stitch. What? That's embarrassing. I swear I don't drop my stitches normally. I'm pretty sure that I can sort of zhuzh this out and get it back to where it needs to be. So this is an A-line shape. I wish that I had done more of the increases right when I first started, which is so long ago. Hindsight is 2020, but I wish that I had done more increases more rapidly, like right leaving my waist, rather than doing them totally gradually, just because I have a more pronounced like waist to upper hip. So that's a little bit annoying to me, but I think I might just try to fix that with blocking. Also, sorry if I'm sweaty. It's like not even that hot today. It's just so humid here. It's been raining all week and I just feel sticky. Anyway, so this goes from your waist to, I'm gonna do it a little bit longer because I think it might shrink a little bit with drying. I don't know. I haven't been able to decide if I'm gonna do this on the bottom too or just like a plain folded hem. I chose not to do this like welting on the top of the skirt because I just felt like, I don't know, there was already this. I didn't want them to have to overlap each other and I thought it might just be too much in the middle. I don't know. So that's the deal with this one. I'm trying to finish this one pretty soon because I'm going on a weekend trip to Cape Cod to visit a friend this weekend and I would like to be able to wear this little set when I'm there, but I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been knitting a ton in the last couple of weeks, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to fully finish this out, especially since I want to add a little length to this one and because I don't have straps yet. Okay, so one other finished object, minus I haven't woven in any ends, is this little bandana, which is the I Love Stripes bandana from Suzanne Mueller. I can't remember her Instagram name, but I'll put it here. And this one I made in True Boo in white and like a charcoal gray. And these were just scrap yarns that I had. So I'm actually annoyed with myself. I couldn't find any more of this white True Boo yarn, so I made this smaller than I wanted to, and then I found it all in a random box I didn't open. So whoops, this is like basically not functional because the pattern calls for silk yarn, which is like, this is equally drapey, but this is like quite a bit thicker. So this is just honestly too thick to wear as a bandana because I think the knot just looks goofy. It's just too big. It's too bulky. Like, it needs to be a thinner, smaller knot than that. So that's a little goofy, but it's too small to be a shawl. So this was kind of pointless, but I do think it looks cute. And I don't know if you saw my things I'll never knit. A shawl was always on my list of things I had zero interest in, and yet here I am Do I even recognize myself? No. Who am I? I found this pattern when I was looking for White Lotus inspired summer knitting patterns. So I just think this one is really cute and like preppy and classic and nautical. And I think if I had done it in silk, this would also be a really nice gift. But I didn't, and it won't. And I don't really know what this thing is for anymore, but maybe I'll just like tie it on something and have it look cute. I don't know what to do with it, but this was kind of a, I can't remember what I was like working on this in between, but I think I was frustrated with some projects and I was just like, I need to follow a pattern for something, but I only wanted to use scrap yarn and I didn't want to have to like think about picking a size even. So that was how I ended up working on this. I think I've talked about it on here before, but knitting to me is just like the ultimate fidget stim basically. So yeah, so that was what I wanted to do with this one. So this is just a manifestation of my anxious energy. And there's not really much to do with it, but maybe I'll continue it and make it bigger at some point. I don't know. She's cute though. She just doesn't really fit into my life. Okay, so my last, not quite a work in progress, but a pre-work in progress, kind of a swatch that I've been working on is this guy, which isn't even finished as a swatch, but this idea is, I really like the idea of doing a tarot card sweater. So I've had that idea for kind of a while. I don't know why, the image just came into my head and I thought it would be really cool. And I chose the star card because it kind of represents like a new start and hope, like light at the end of a dark time. And I just really was craving something to signify something like that right now. So I made up a chart in Stitch Fiddle that kind of gets some of the like core essences of the tarot card, and this is just like a tiny element of it. The actual one is going to be quite a bit bigger, and I'll say the star, and I'll have a bunch of other elements, but this was just a swatch to sort of try out the yarn that I was working with. And I also haven't done any color work in pretty much a year. I realized last summer I was doing a ton of color work. I had my summertime tote bag pattern and my cherry bomb crop both came out of that period where I was doing a lot of stranded knitting. And I did one intarsia sweater in 2021, but I hadn't done either in quite a while. So this was like sort of practicing the technique again. And I also added in jacquard, ladderback jacquard, which is like a technique that you use for catching your floats. So you can see that's in the back of this star. I'll talk more about it as I work on this project to like show that technique. But that was actually one of the goals that I set for myself this year in my very first like chatty YouTube video I posted on here. Was my 2023 knitting goals. One of them was ladderback jacquard. So I am checking that off my list in terms of something that I'm learning and actively practicing with this. I ended up deciding, so these were the colors that I was originally going to use, and I was pretty careful about choosing the exact colorways. So I ended up using, this is Barocco Vintage DK is the white. The blue is Barocco Ultra Wool DK, and the yellow is Barocco Vintage Baby, which is like the same as Vintage DK. It just comes in kind of like smaller balls and baby colors, I guess. And I really, really, really like this color scheme, but I ended up deciding that intarsia is just not for me. It just annoys me. If you don't know, it's where you have like a separate ball of yarn for each segment of color. And I made this swatch with a combination of intarsia and, sorry, this keeps making noise. I made this swatch with a combination of intarsia for the, like where the white and blue transition, and then also stranded knitting done flat, which is between the blue and the yellow. And intarsia just bothers me. I just don't enjoy it, and I end up with these like crazy tangles of yarn, and it just stresses me out. So I decided that I'm actually gonna do a black and white version, and that way I can just do the ladderback jacquard and do it all with stranded knitting, and I think that will just make it a more pleasant experience for me to knit. And I really enjoy the ladderback jacquard so far. It just feels, yeah, it's just cool to do. I really like it. So I am kind of a combination of like, and this is sort of how I normally go about picking techniques for my projects. Like, I usually will prioritize what I want the finished object to look like, but then if I just can't stand doing the technique, I'll like rework my vision of the design to match a technique that I'm happy with. So I don't know, I kind of want to finish this little swatch just so that I can hang it up in my like office/craft room as a little decor, I guess, like a little North Star. So I might do that, but yeah, this was kind of a pain to knit. Not a huge Intarsia fan. Have any of you tried it before? Are you like pro or against? I know I watched a duplicate stitch tutorial by Very Pink Knits, who I would trust with my life on most things. And in her duplicate stitch tutorial, she was like, I do this instead of Intarsia because I hate Intarsia. And girl, same. So that's the deal with this one. Love me some two-handed color work, but hate me some Intarsia. That's this little guy. It's just a little work in progress. Hoping that I'm gonna cast this, like the real sweater on this weekend, because I'm going to visit a really good friend from childhood on the Cape, and we're gonna celebrate the summer solstice together. And she's actually done all of the tarot readings that I've had in my life. She has done for me, and they've always been just like really special, meaningful, introspective experiences. And I really like the idea of starting this sweater that I feel like is kind of representing a lot for me of like, you know, new chapters and lightness and growth. I really like the idea of starting it at the summer solstice, like the halfway point of the year, the longest day of the year, and being surrounded by, you know, some people that I really care about. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what yarn I'm going to use because I originally went with this, the vintage DK and the ultra wool because of the colors. And I know that I need it to be DK because I need a certain number of stitches available. Cause like when you do color work like this, it's basically almost like a pixel grid. And I know that the number of pixels that I want for this to come out clearly, it needs to be at least DK or lighter weight. So now that I don't have to rely on having these particular background and star colors, I just need there to be a white and a black. That means that I don't have to go, I'm not as limited in terms of my yarn choices. So I think I'd rather not do a superwash yarn because it tends to stretch and it can be a little bit difficult with color work because it doesn't like grab onto its neighbor as well. And that can make it just sort of like lumpier and not look as good in color work. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find another yarn to use before I leave. I also thought that this whole weekend thing was gonna be next weekend, not this weekend. So I'm scrambling a little bit, so we'll see. But I really, really like the idea, so I wanna try to do that. Lastly, I wanted to add a little segment on like acquisitions, I guess. So in terms of yarn acquisitions, I actually have just been given a huge amount of yarn. And I'm going through all of it kind of slowly. So a friend of mine is moving and she gave me most of her yarn that she didn't have like an immediate project for. So I'm going through it all and cataloging it, and I'm filming that process because it's kind of like a fun goodie bag experience of like opening up these boxes and seeing what's inside. So hopefully I'll share a full video with you on that soon. And then I also wanted to do a little segment on reading because I love to read, and I've been a little bit of a reading slump this year. If you saw my Ask Me Anything, I usually try to read about 2 books a month, so 24 books a year, and I'm way behind this year. For some reason, I don't know what my deal is. So I would love if you have any book recommendations for me. I'm open to like a lot of different genres, but I feel like I tend to gravitate towards sort of like, can you hear these crows going crazy right now? Feels ominous. But I just got 2 books this weekend. Where I live kind of close to a forest, which is why you can like hear so many crows right now. But you can actually follow a trail through the forest into the town that I live near. And I took that little path this weekend. I hadn't done it in a while because it was muddy and slippery. And Town Center was having a library book sale. I didn't realize that it was cash only. And when I went to check out and realized that, they were like, yeah, well, the books that you're holding are $3. And I was like, I know, I'm so sorry. And they're like, so just take them, just go. Just go. So I got these books for free, which is really cool and very generous of them. But I'm really excited to dig into them. So the first one is Pew by Catherine Lacey. And this seems like kind of an odd, surreal kind of novel. It's about a town where some stranger who is kind of like ambiguous genderless, nameless, shows up sleeping in a church, and the town names them Pew. And it describes the end, I think, as unsettling and an foreboding, provocative, amorphous fable about the world today. That just sounds really interesting and appealing to me right now. So I started just the very beginning of it, and I think this is really intriguing. And I also love this hardcover copy. It kind of reminds me of like a little hymn book in a way. And then this other one is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which is so popular. I know there's an HBO special about it. I started listening to this last winter on audiobook, but the problem was there were so many character names that for some reason it didn't translate well to audiobook for me, because I kept like forgetting who was who, and you can't like flip back a couple pages to be like, oh yeah, it was that person. So I just found it hard to follow, but I really enjoyed reading about this like female friendship. It takes place in sort of like the 1950s and 60s in Italy. So I thought that this deserved another look, but like in physical form when it would be easier to like actually remember the names. So I'm really excited about both of these, and I'm curious if any of you have read either of these. But again, if you have any book recs, I love audiobooks, and I feel like I've been spending a little bit more time reading hard copy books lately too. So either way, please recommend to me. I gotta catch up on all my goals. And I feel like summer is, I don't know, actually, for some reason, I feel like summer I end up reading a lot more, probably because I go on more walks and I listen to more audiobooks that way. And I don't know, there's something so luxurious about like lying in the grass reading that even a cozy winter day just doesn't quite get me the same way. For some reason, I like reading during the day much more than reading at night. Couldn't tell you why, so that's inconvenient for me. But so those are the things I've been working on. I had that pattern come out recently. I've got probably a tester call coming soon. So if you're interested in that, my mailing list is in my description. And I really, really hope the next time I see you, I am wearing my cute little tennis set. Let me know if you have any name suggestions for it. And I also was thinking about making a little like pattern styling video of some sort of like preppy, summery, athletic inspired knitting patterns, because I think I've been seeing a decent number of like cute tennis sweaters and things like that. So let me know if you'd be interested in that. And that's it. I post a lot of different knitting related content on here, so I would love if you subscribed and hung out again in the future. And I hope I see you soon, and thank you so much for watching.